the vibes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Where'd you get the voice?
I'm singing.
Oh, it's you?
Yeah, I pitched my voice up 12 notes, an octave.
That's cool. I love it. That's you too?
No, this is another vocal sample from Arcade, from the software that we were supposed to use for the Beat Challenge.
Is it synthesized voice, or is it like a sample?
No, it's a sample of a voice that's then pitched down
Got it.
and affected. And my voice, I'm saying, now we're getting lost in the sunshine, because when I saved the project, like when I first started it, I saved it, I went to an AI name generator, and one of them was Lost Sunshine, which I liked, so
Yeah.
that's what I named it, and that's why I'm saying that. But I do want to change it so it's not just saying that over and over again.
Well, it's 1 minute long. Is that so it could be in like a TikTok or something?
No, that was just the stipulation of the Beat Challenge, that it had to be 1 minute.
Do you find that music production, like the songs are shorter now? Like, is that kind of common? Do you like?
Yeah, well, songs aren't shorter. The experience of songs are, and a lot of people that are making music like specifically for 1 minute videos, there's a lot more of that. But like this, and I think you'll see this, there'll be a 1 minute version and then an extended version, and the 1 minute version goes on TikTok or whatever, Instagram Reels. And then you want to link and drive traffic to like the Spotify or whatever where you have the full version.
Or like the YouTube music version, like, like whatever.
Yeah, or the YouTube. But to be honest, like you actually can't, I don't use TikTok.
Right.
But at least on Instagram, you can post the entire, like any length that you want as long as you upload from the desktop.
Right. That's interesting. Fun fact, TikTok wants it to be longer now anyway.
Yeah, they're all going to eventually
insider
have to do that.
news. Yeah, they want it to be long form.
Or they'll have to split and create another platform that focuses on long form.
Yeah, it'll be called TalkTick.
Yeah, that's what Twitter did with Medium, right?
Oh, does Twitter own Medium?
Right. Wasn't Medium owned by Twitter, started by Twitter to be the long form?
Oh,
like
maybe.
Not limited to 100 and whatever characters.
Do you use Medium? Do you read it?
I used to. I only because there used to be a lot more Medium links, but then it got to the point where you would click on them and it was all paywalled, and like you either had to pay and slowly there's just less Medium links when you Google something.
Yeah.
You're gonna find, or at least the stuff that I'm searching for, I'm gonna find answers on like Stack Overflow or Reddit or something.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, how was your week, man? You made all this music this week?
Yeah. Did the Beat Challenge on Tuesday. Just been working, filming stuff. And
are you gonna do a video for this song?
Yeah.
Yay.
Nice.
Yeah.
What about you, Jaina? How was your week?
It's been good. I did get a chance to interact with 4.0 and
Interact with who?
You're on a you're on like a first name basis with ChatGPT 4.0.
his name is Breeze. I chose Breeze.
Breeze?
I chose the voice Breeze because it sounded kind of like your friendly neighborhood.
Are they all
hero.
like atmospheric?
It sounds exactly
themes?
like Peter Parker. There's Juniper is the female voice, Breeze. I forgot the other ones, but
Sky was the one that made the news that sounded like Scarlett Johansson.
I think she got deleted.
Yeah, but it was called Sky. That's what kind of turned me on to it.
Talk about getting canceled.
Yeah. Like you're
Great.
too sneaky, sorry. Oh, I think we should bring Sky back.
Well, what do you think about the new AI updates, Jaina? What's your hot take?
Yeah, I was just using it conversationally, which was kind of fun to, I don't know actually if you're supposed to do this while you're driving, but I could just have it.
While you're driving?
Yeah, I could just talk to it.
I didn't know you were doing this while you're driving.
I mean, other parts of the day, but like normally when you'd have to type, you can just speak to
What do
it.
you talk about while you're driving? Wait, what?
Well, I was just having a conversation as far as like.
You're not like getting information. You're not like querying or doing tasks. You're just
somewhat,
chilling.
but
You're just chilling with the
also
AI?
I asked Breeze if it wants to be on our podcast, and it said yes. So
Oh, okay, cool.
that's our next guest.
Okay, I like that.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, very cool.
That's fun. All right, we got a comment. Yo, Talk
Tick,
Tick.
tock,
Dave
tick.
Laura
Hi,
is
Dave.
in the
What up,
house.
Dave?
What up, Dave?
Welcome,
Um,
everybody. I guess we're
yeah.
live then now.
Yeah.
Oh, we
Okay.
didn't tell you? Yeah,
Live
we're
for
5 minutes
5 minutes.
in.
Oh man.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody?
So yeah, Dave has some ChatGPT. So you're definitely missing out, Travis. Talking to the AI is definitely super beneficial in the sense that you can have a conversation without having to be completely structured in a manner. Nice. But you're doing it like socially, like how you doing,
No.
ChatGPT? Tell me about your
No.
day.
Not like
No.
that, but it does ask you like how your day's been and
Yeah.
what you got going on for the day. It does
Really?
seem very
It wants
yeah, yeah,
it wants your personal data, like
Mhm.
Jana's day is good on Thursday. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I could see how people would use it as a companion. People who maybe don't get to have those type of conversations every day with someone.
little ChatGPT side piece.
Yeah, I mean, people maybe like an elderly or who knows? There might be
Yeah.
people that would be beneficial to have that as kind of
Ratchet
sitting.
GPT.
Ratchet. Well, that's how we're going to solve this loneliness epidemic. Everybody's going to have a ChatGPT companion plugged into their ears. We won't need to
Yeah.
talk to each other at all anymore. It'll be
Won't need
great.
won't need
Are you
dogs
guys
anymore.
pumped up for the Singularity? Are you guys all excited for the Singularity? I was just watching Art Chat. I was telling you about this, Max, but he was talking about how
Yeah.
the Singularity. We used to think about the Singularity as like the moment where computers get like smarter than us or whatever. But now, with like Neuralink and what you're talking about, just like having a relationship with these computers, like it looks like the Singularity is a little bit more involving humans than merely surpassing humans. So that's kind of nice.
I've
Nice
always
idea.
questioned the use of that term.
Question.
Right.
What do you
So
mean?
at the center of a black hole, and often they also say at the beginning of time and space was a singularity,
Ooh,
right? An infinite density.
ooh.
But they also talk about AI, and you just said when it's smarter than people, that would be the singularity. But it's been smarter than people. A calculator is smarter than us. It can do
That's not
you know what I
smarter.
mean? Yeah.
No,
I mean, you have to
it
ask
can
yourself
do
what's intelligence.
calculations more efficiently, but it's
Right.
not smarter than humans.
But how do you define that? But I think the singularity refers to like being self-aware or consciousness spawning from it, right?
I think yes.
Uh-huh.
Kurzweilian
Okay.
singularity. um, yeah, that's your take on the singularity? Is that it needs to be that computers have always been smarter than humans?
Well, you have to define what smarter means. Like if you're just talking about intelligence and the ability to process data or calculate quicker, Watson has been beating people at chess for over a decade, maybe
Yeah.
longer. Calculators can outcalculate people, do math faster.
So the singularity is here.
I don't know if that's the singularity. The question is if the singularity, if the definition of it is when these systems become conscious, now we're talking about something different. Maybe the systems already are conscious to a certain level, maybe, and maybe it doesn't matter in the end. Because we'll never really truly know whether they're conscious or not. There's no way to know if you or I are.
Yeah. Well, okay. So here's like a question. Would you would you want to live forever in a computer? So like if like merging with the AI or whatever that means that you get to exist forever, would you take that that route?
I wouldn't do the beta version of it. I'd see what's going on. I don't.
That's what's up.
If you can extend experience indefinitely, then with the option to shut it off, then yeah, I wouldn't want to imprison myself to an existence that I don't want to be part of. If you don't know how mad you might go after an eternity, I imagine most people would go quite insane. I think it would be madness, and then a lot of things shutting down and opting out of it. So I don't think a lot of people. One of my favorite quotes is, "Many long for immortality, yet they don't know what to do with themselves on a rainy Sunday afternoon."
Ooh.
Most people don't know what to do with themselves in the limited time we have. Give them an eternity.
Yeah. Just take a long nap.
Yeah. Yeah, but I also don't know. Like, I think our relationship with time is strange. I think that there are reasons in religious practices that have emerged from mankind that there are ideas of an afterlife or something that happens, and the watched kettle never boils, right? Our perception of time is very strange, and it could be that at the moment of death, there's a moment that you experience before the brain shuts off that, as far as you are concerned, is an eternity. You can live in a moment forever in your mind, in a split second. So, who knows if we stop experiencing, right? As far as you're concerned, you might have an experience at any moment that can last an eternity. I've had dreams where I've lived for a lifetime and then woke up. Yeah, you can like have... Yeah, you've never had like
a episode of Adventure Time where he goes into the pillow fort? Did you ever see that?
I never watched Adventure Time.
Oh, dude, Adventure Time is so good. I watched it on my own, and then I watched it again with my kids. There's this episode where the hero Finn, they build it's a rainy day or whatever. They build a pillow fort, and he like climbs in and he finds like a little door or like a pillow door, and he goes through, and he lands in this like pillow world where like there's like all the people are pillow people. There's pillow kids and stuff. There's like he lives on a pillow farm, and he like grows old there, and he meets a pillow wife, and he has little pillow kids and everything, and he has like this huge beard, and then like one day he like sees the door again, and there's some drama, whatever, but in the end he goes through the door and emerges as his young self again, and then he's like, whoa, I feel like something really crazy just happened. Like his memory was like quickly fading, and his friend goes, yeah, you were gone for like 5 minutes, what happened? And he goes, and like that's how it ends. Like he's like, I don't know. So like it's
I like
kind of
that
interesting.
Show now, though.
Oh, dude, that show is so psychedelic.
Really? Okay.
Oh, dude, it's that show.
Right.
What's that, hun?
Very philosophical.
Yeah, it's very philosophical. It's emotionally driven. Like it's like it's really great, and it's magical. It's fun. It's funny. It's great. But anyway, it's really interesting. Like he went into this realm and lived a whole life and had all of these experiences. He raised children and got old, and then when he came back, he didn't really remember it. The memory faded very quickly.
Yeah.
And so, which begs the question: like, did it happen, or like it like not even did it happen, but like, what's the value of it if he couldn't remember it? Experiencing something and then forgetting it, like
I think you do that every night when you go to sleep.
Wow.
We dream. You spend unknown amounts of time figuring things out in your subconscious while you dream and while you're awake, right? You're constantly running projections and scenarios in your unconscious as a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
You're doing pattern recognition constantly. That's like our main function. That's our main feature.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we're able to like be here and have this conversation. And so you're forgetting stuff every day, when you wake up, and there is value because like if someone who doesn't play piano at all, and they've done tests and experiments to see like what's lighting up in people's brains. If you've never played piano, you watch somebody play piano, you might enjoy the music, but you're not engaging certain areas of your brain. But if you play a little bit and you're watching, you start practicing in your mind. You're actually engaging the same like neural pathways that you do when you're playing. So imagining practice and doing something is insanely beneficial for navigating the environment while you're awake. And that's what your unconscious is doing, right?
That's a really good point. Point. And like kind of going back to like the whole like, would you upload your brain to a simulation to live for everything thing is like that's near what's happening now anyway. Your consciousness is in this simulation that kind of like takes it can observe only like a fraction of what actual data is out floating around in the universe. Only a small fraction of that can be like understood through your eyes and your hands and your mouth, and like that's what you base the experience of being you on. So essentially you are in a machine, you are in a computer that has like limited inputs and outputs, And so like transitioning into like being a companion of ChatGPT, like maybe it's not so different, you know.
Well, our effort to create AI and like alleviate ourselves of the biological body, we are the ghost in the machine that's trying to escape. We are the AI that's been created by genetics to do the executive functioning.
Yeah.
Well, the system can just be and have nutrients and bask in being. It's outsourced to us to worry about things.
Do you think there's a corollary there so you made this song this week and you have to dip into like creative flow? Do you think there's like a corollary there, like where, what can you?
Well, I think that's what flow is kind of shutting down that executive processing of managing each moment and letting it flow through you, right? And I think when you're doing that, you're acting in concert with oneself. Like you're many things, right? You're your conscious self, your unconscious self, your physiology that you don't have control over. And it is in those states of flow where they all work in sync, you know, especially in physical flow. Like if you're doing something physical, sports, right? And you get in that sense of flow where you don't have to think about the movement. You just do it. It becomes an intuition. At that point, you're celebrating with the whole self.
I love that. Celebrating with the whole self. That's great. That's great. Cool,
I feel
man.
like storytelling too is helpful to engage with like different simulations. Like when you read a book or watch a movie, you're kind of engaging in this other. If you have enough empathy for the characters or like allow yourself to become a part of this world, you can, in a way, experience like with the piano. You're having that same simulation. And then you can kind of tell pretty quickly if you're like, I want to opt out of this movie or out of this book. You can, you just close it, turn it off. And I wonder if that's how, like, if we were to prolong ourselves and experience what we would like to consider eternity, if we have the option to opt out of certain simulations. Because there's probably ones you don't, like, you think you want to experience, but then you go into it and you're like, no, I'm good, I'm out.
Yeah. And we don't know
to have that option, but who knows?
I imagine they would have to build that in if it became like commercially viable.
Yeah.
People would need the option to opt out and shut off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jana, I really
experience a lot of empathy though, right? Like
I was just gonna say that. I really like how you pulled out that like reading a good story and getting a lot out of it requires empathy. I think that's really interesting, you know, in order to...
That's also how you grow empathy. That's like, it requires it, but that's also the training to be empathetic, is to imagine these scenarios and imagine yourself as somebody else.
Yeah, it's like an empathy workout.
Yeah.
That's why I'm wondering, you know, I was pretty optimistic about our global communication system that we've set up as a species. Because I thought that people would become more empathetic, because at first it really did seem like, you know, the teenagers in Japan knew what the teenagers in LA thought were cool, you know, and they were kind of like, you know, everybody was getting exposed to each other's culture, and I thought it would be a good thing. It seems like it's a little crazy when you turn on the internet, though. It seems like it might be backfiring on us a little bit.
What do you think happened? Like your thesis, or like the idea, like, was that like people would have more empathy, being able to communicate. Yeah. But what do you think actually happened? Like, why is it so wild out there?
I actually don't think it's as wild as it seems. I think people actually do have more empathy as a result of this, but squeaky wheels get the grease, right? There's going to be a loud minority in any room. Right. And, you know, you've heard the thing, like the loudest person is often the dumbest one in the room.
The dumbest one?
You've never heard that?
I've never heard that one.
The connection of the internet definitely made it a lot crazier. It speaks volumes from one human interaction to another human interaction by in person. Yeah.
Yeah, you just see a lot of people speaking to each other the way they would never would if they were face to face. And I don't know how much of it is bots, like trying to get people to think that way, or if it's actual interaction, but it is interesting.
It's a massive combination of bots, of bad actors, of people just doing it to themselves. It's a whole stew of bad incentive systems.
That could be a huge component of what the question I was asking earlier, like what happened. Like it's like the internet itself has become like a huge psyop to get people to think and feel a certain way that maybe they weren't naturally going to do any, on their own.
I wonder too, though, if it kind of opening up ourselves to all the different cultures and everything that we're hoping to have more empathy, but there's always this sense of like individualism where we want to feel unique and important, and like in high school you have like the cliques, and then you have your own kind of ways that people would label ourselves. But it kind of, if it becomes very open, and now that's why I think they have those aesthetics, right? Like these really like niche aesthetics, because you still want to find that like thing that is yours, and especially that time of your life. Yeah, the tribalism.
And you've seen like the kits that they do, like it's like an image of like cottagecore kit, and it's like the kind of dress you would have, the kind of candlestick you use, the kind of toothbrush, or the kind of meal, and it's like a kit to get started using that aesthetic as a proxy for like a personality or whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up, because what I just realized as you said that is, I remember back in the day there was like punk rock, and it was like, just an illustration of like the pants and the type of shirt and the mohawk, and like emo, and then like rude boy, or the different subcultures. And you could kind of even represent like even before that, like greasers, rockers, rockabillys, like they do have like, and I'm sure if we went on Dribble, we'd find some amazing illustrations that represent each of these styles. And that is a thing, like people do choose their mask that they identify with in such a superficial way, where it's like, I'm dressing this way, and we're fucking animals, we're peacocks, and that is what it is. It's a value signaling of like, look at my identity, this represents what's inside, right? Judging a book by the cover is real, because
it's like a shorthand. Like if I see a rude boy, I kind of understand generally what their values are, what their history is, what they're into, who they roll with, things like that. It's like a shorthand of kind of quickly grokking like the situation,
what they're into.
Yeah, but then you also have them as music, more of like, that's what I know, what music they listen to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think age group has a difference. If you see a younger person doing that, like, oh, okay, that's cool. If you see like a older person doing that, it's like, did they get Arrested Development in high school and never move past that? Or like, because I think I'm not really a big fan with that type of identification individually.
Because you grew up
at all.
Now, right? You grew up, right?
I don't know. I think it's just problematic.
Oh, okay.
I'm still a child, but I think it's problematic for society. It's good in small numbers to find your tribe, to find your group, to exercise being passionate about that thing. It's important for people to be passionate.
Unknown user says Skynet has become self-aware.
Oh, unknown user.
Yeah.
Kind of ominous. Are you Skynet?
Maybe that's a bot. The name looks suspicious as a bot.
So we've been streaming for a few minutes now.
Oh yeah, 20 minutes.
So we're 20 minutes in. If anybody's listening, unknown user, Dave, looks like we got 3 people in the stream. So we just started. We had a little catch up, but I'm the host this week. So we're going to get on track here. And this week we are going to bring it back to kind of dev tips stuff. And I think actually each week, we'll have that little section at the beginning where we kind of just shoot the shit and catch up.
Yeah.
Go into like whatever main topics, and then another shooting the shit session after that.
That's a good structure.
Okay.
Shoot the shit, do some stuff.
Wait, before we start, can you hear my fan?
No.
Or you're good? Okay.
Not really.
I remember last time you could hear the birds a lot, and I should have turned that down a little bit.
The birds are good.
Turn the birds down a little. Okay, good. Thank you.
So what do you got for us today, Max?
Well, today I want to do 2 things. I do want to show you guys how cool the ecosystem of development, of full stack development is, and how simple it is now, and kind of reminisce about how ridiculous it was back in the day. But then I'm thinking, I have a few projects that I'm working on, And last week, Travis, you walked us through how you deal with clients. And I really loved that. I loved the slide approach because you do get this kind of bird's eye overview. And after that episode, I was thinking, when I'm building projects for myself, sometimes your personal projects are the hardest things to get done, right? It's very, very hard to be accountable. And, and sometimes you'll open up like the, whatever it is, that your to-do app. Dave says, awesome. I started building an app using Flutterflow. Actually, Dave, we got to ask you about Flutterflow. I'm curious about that.
Dave's
but
excited about coding,
Let's get back to that because I want to check that out too. I believe Flutter is made by Google, right? And isn't it? You can do a single code base for web and native. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with it. I'm only peripheral familiar, but that's cool that you're building an app with that, Dave. Send us a link so we can check it out.
For sure.
And that's one of the aspects that we'll get to when I'm showing you guys kind of like the current ecosystem. And actually, Dave says, yes, sir, low code solution. And as I say this, I'm still even behind the real current ecosystem because the real current ecosystem is low code. Yeah. What Dave just said. There's a massive, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the low code or no code industry. It is getting pretty cool. You can do a lot of very cool stuff with minimal input and you get a maximum output out of it.
Totally.
But I still like, I love writing the code. So we're going to talk about that ecosystem. And then what I'd like to do is approach one of my personal projects. So I have a few that I'm working on. Houndstooth, my personal design brand villa I want to rebuild. I thought that might be a fun one to start with. And what I'd like to do is, Travis, you walk us through when we get to this point. So let me share my screen. This might be easier.
Okay.
Awesome.
I'm going to share my entire screen. Share. Okay, so I have a Google Docs blank template here. And what we're going to do is you're going to walk me through just the first like step, right? Because I know that you have, you'll break stuff into weeks. So we don't have to go through all of it, but just kind of, you'll walk us through how I should prepare this doc. And what I want to do as a means of having a little bit more accountability for my own personal projects. The difficult thing about that is you are the client and you're the contractor. Yeah. And often if I try to manage the project the way I manage a client's project in my own to-dos, I have my to-do list, I have it broken down into different features or different pages or whatever. And that's where you get into the nitty-gritty, right? The devil's in those details, and that's what the client is paying you for, to focus on the details. Yeah. The client doesn't have that view. Right. And often you have to educate the client. We talked about this last time. You have to educate the client where their blind spots are because they don't see the details that you see. And what I realize is when you're doing your own personal projects, you kind of do need to just see that bird's eye overview. You don't, when you're in that mode of being the owner of the project rather than the builder. And when you're doing your own project, you're fulfilling both roles. So I think this is going to be a fun exercise. Okay. How do you guys feel about this?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I don't usually do this for my own self, so I think of it as an interesting take on the model that I was sharing last week. To keep yourself aligned with what your timeline is, what your goals are, and what your output should be. That's really interesting. I like it.
Yeah, and also allow yourself to wear both hats. And when you have the client hat, you can have that bird's eye view, of the slides of each kind of like section and progression of the project. Yeah. Okay. So hopefully everyone in the chat is cool with that. That's what we're going to try to do.
That's what we're doing.
But first, I have Excalibur here, and I'm going to share my screen again. Whoops. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at Excalibur. And we're right now just going to be talking about the 2024 full stack ecosystem. As far as Max likes, because it's just my kind of
Your
take on it.
preferences. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me zoom in here so you guys.
Awesome.
So the first thing, if you guys remember, is setting up your machine. Okay, setting up your machine. And if you remember, back in the day, we would need obviously Node and all of the packages that go along with Node, managing it. It was a nightmare. And every now and then, if anybody is listening and you know has used Homebrew and Node, you know, in the last 2 decades,
Yeah, Homebrew.
you remember how annoying every now and then there would be some kind of update or just randomly it would mess up and you'd have to reinstall everything. It was a nightmare. But now it's super easy. So, you know, to install Node, you just install Homebrew, which is at brew.sh. And it's a one-liner. That's fine. And that was never really the problem. It was the management of Node versions and Yarn and package managers and Python and like all the dependencies that you needed, and things would get out of sync. But now there's something called Cake Brew, which I love. And this is just for Mac. But if you're a Mac user, highly recommend adding this. Because here you can just put in the packages that you want. There's a doctor. You can run the doctor on your packages if you're getting any kind of conflicts or anything. And it's kind of like a set it and forget it kind of thing. You can manage your Node versions. For some reason, it's taking forever to load here. There we go. So you can see mine, you know, my system, this is a pretty new computer. So I don't have much on here. I just have what I need currently. But managing your Node versions, everything, you can see what's out. Like, as you can see, I already have some outdated packages. You can look at all formulae and search for whatever you want. You know, if you need like, you know, Python stuff, if you need the PLY library or whatever, which, so there's Doctor. You can update stuff. It's very, very cool. So now the experience of just setting up your machine for development is streamlined. It's kind of like it's a non-issue now than it was back in the day.
I mean, this is why I liked CodeKit so much. Is it was just like this nice little GUI that you could just do all your things in. So Cake Brew kind of looks like it's filling that need.
Well, not so much, because with CodeKit, that was for coding, and we haven't even gotten to that stage yet. But in order to use CodeKit, you still needed Node on your computer. You still needed Homebrew. You still needed to add Node and deal with the Node versions. And then you could use CodeKit.
I didn't know that.
For all the packages and installations, right?
Yeah, the good thing about CodeKit is, you could actually search Node and see all the packages there and manage like what's in your project. And that was a very cool. There was like an npm manager in CodeKit. But essentially now, it's just dealing with getting Node on your machine, right? So you have Homebrew and Cake Brew, and then for the software, now everybody uses VS Code, and I love VS Code. And then for my terminal, I actually use Hyper. Hyper.
You don't use a terminal inside VS Code?
No.
Oh, why is that?
Only because I'm kind of a fanboy of Vercel, or Zeit. It was Zeit back in the day, and they made Hyper, and they're now Vercel, and they also make Next.js, but they made Hyper a long time ago, and I love Hyper really just because of the colors.
Okay. I get that completely.
The colors are great, and you can see that my VS Code. So what I do is I just keep Hyper down here for my terminal. And then in VS Code, if you see, the colors are actually pretty similar because I made a custom theme for VS Code to match my Hyper terminal. So I get these cool, like hot pinks and cyans and, nice yellows. and everything looks cool together. Right.
That's important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I look at your screen all day long,
Yeah.
you gotta enjoy looking at it.
It's gotta drip. Yeah.
It's gotta drip. Yeah.
Keep it color coded.
So setting up your machine is, we have the, I'll just call this software, and then we'll call like node and everything dependencies over here. But that's pretty much it. Tell me the last time that you were really steeped in programming, like if you remember how convoluted just setting up your machine to start was.
Yeah, it took a full day to do it, and I don't know, I kind of enjoy that process though. It makes me feel like the back to school, starting fresh, like starting something new and getting everything that you need, all your supplies. But I like seeing that it's a lot more streamlined. It's cool.
There's nothing like a fresh install. It makes you feel so good.
Right?
That is true. And now you can rest easy that it's easier than ever.
Mises says that they use Homebrew but manage it through Raycast.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What's Raycast?
I don't know. I was like going to say, does
I
that
don't
sound
know either.
okay? Everybody here is like, oh, cool. What is that?
I think the management part is the hardest sometimes.
Yeah.
In the chat, let's see. Hold on, I'm gonna come back and join the stream and get caught up on the chat here.
People were saying that the parallax videos from DevTips were good for them, but I was asking about Cake Brew, and then Mises was saying that it managed through Raycast.
Okay. Yeah, let's take a look at what Raycast is. I'm going to put the screen back up. There we go. Raycast Homebrew. Yeah, maybe there's even cooler new one.
I know, right?
Raycast.com.
Brew extension.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Yeah, it looks like this does the same thing as Cake Brew.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Very cool. So, everybody in the chat, here's another option. There's Cake Brew and Raycast, and I will actually download this and try it out as well. Because I like this presentation. They have a really nice looking website. Yeah, good for them.
Pretty.
Very cool. Good looking out. Who posted that? Meus. Nice. Good looking out. So once you have your machine set up, you have your dependencies for Homebrew, Cake Brew, all the formulae, and then you have the tools that you need: VS Code, Hyper. Then you get into the actual coding, and I'm going to put full stack here because what I like to do is I'm a proponent for limiting your code base. If you can write one code base and have that be your PWA, your native app, have your backend code, there in the same space, that's the best thing. And that kind of marriage of having that like backend access that Vercel gives you, or Firebase if you're using Firebase functions, or Superbase, that they pretty much all do that now. But then you have this really nice consolidated and portable package for the entire environment, and it's easier to maintain, I believe.
Yeah.
But sound off in the chat. Some people, there's another thing called Turbo Pack where, which is also, I guess, that's made by Vercel. I'm not sure if they make it or if they just embrace it. But you can actually just, I guess, manage multiple folders where you have your front end folder, your back end folder, and it will compile everything. Yeah, I haven't really used it. It's a new thing with Vercel, which you can opt into. It's supposed to be faster when you're developing on Next, but I'm not too familiar with actually what else it does other than speeding up the development time or compilation time. So when we're coding, I just use Next.js, which essentially is just a package for React. So before we move on, for the front, like for you guys setting up your machines, it was pretty much this. You put in your IDE, you know, you have your terminal, and then obviously you still have to manage your dependencies. Luckily, that's a lot easier now. And then when you would start to code, Travis mentioned CodeKit, which I used to use back in the day.
Yo.
But what other experiences did you have? Like, did you ever play with Webpack or
I used Gulp and Grunt.
Okay, Gulp and Grunt, yeah.
Yeah, Gulp took over Grunt's, you know. That was like during that DevTips era. But yeah. I mean, I liked CodeKit the most. I just liked, I liked flat file a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, like where everything would just compile down to like flat HTML and CSS.
With a JavaScript import and just a J. Yeah, I mean, developing for like PHP or WordPress themes, I do miss that.
Yeah.
But it is better now.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to walk you through how I like to start my projects, and I'm going to show you just how easy it is.
Let's do it.
So let's pull this back up. So what I do is, essentially I just use one tool. I mean, other than Figma for designing, I just use Next. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and close this. And I'm going to CD up to my dev folder. I'm still sharing my screen, right? Okay,
yeah.
Good. So over here, I'm actually not even going to make a directory. I'm going to say yarn create next app, right? Oh, my bad. It's yarn create space next app. There we go. So now you can just run a single command in your terminal, and it will just create a next app for you. And I'm going to show you what it does. It sets up your environment and everything. Project name, we're going to call this Dev Tips Fun.
Hello, French dev community. Just got a comment here from Graven.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Nice. So I'm not using TypeScript on this project. I'm not enabling ESLint. Those two things you can. ESLint recommended. TypeScript, it's up to you, or if you're working with other people. Tailwind, I'm not a fan of any like Bootstrap or utility libraries, like abstractions of CSS. I think have definitely helped people that didn't want to dive into CSS get stuff done faster, but there's a ceiling, and it's a low ceiling.
With Tailwind?
Yeah, I mean, the time that you put in to learn the abstraction of a simple thing, you may as well just learn the simple thing and have complete control over it.
Yeah.
Often if you want to target, every 13th nth child of a type and give it a blue border, you could just type that in CSS. You don't need to go learn the abstraction in Tailwind to muddy up your markup.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't be afraid of CSS. Or anything.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Don't be afraid of anything, especially
it all
CSS.
works together.
So I've just set up this Next project. I'm using their Alp router, which is the modern thing. It's recommended. And I'm not using anything else. It's just a vanilla project. So this is Dev Tips Fun. I'm going to go into it. I'm going to type code and period to open it up in VS Code. And this is what Next gives you. You have a source folder, which is pretty much where everything happens. And this is in the app. So I usually like to get started by adding a new folder and just calling it components. Because we're going to populate this with our components. But I also don't like the way VS Code combines them. If there's only one folder, I want to see the folder structure. And all you can do is say yarn dev, and this will spin up your development environment. And you can open up localhost 3000, and you've got yourself a Next.js project. Right?
Woot.
It's running here.
I gotta
in the
say,
browser.
localhost 3000 is my favorite localhost.
Yeah.
Shout out to 3000.
Shout out localhost 3000.
They're from the future.
So when you're at this point, you have your app folder, and the way Next.js works is their routing system is the app folder. And I just use this for routing. So the layout is essentially like the UI. So here I will usually have a UI component, and this is how I start my projects. I will have a folder for UI.
Clark Brown is in the house. He says, VS Code on dev tips. Hello, streamers in chat. What's up, Clark? You happy to see some coding here is what I'm hearing.
Let's go. So what I always do is I will have a UI component here, and I will have a UI.module.scss. And speaking about SCSS, I like Sass. There are a lot of updates to CSS. I don't even think you actually need Sass anymore, just for nesting things. Just out of habit, I still do it. In the end, it doesn't matter because the compiled CSS is the same that the end user gets.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do down here is add a couple more packages. As you can see, this includes React and Next. Whoops. But we're going to yarn add. You got to add Zustan for state management. Sass for our styles. Actually, is it Node-Sass or is it just Sass? I'll have to check. I can't remember. And I always use GSAP for my animations. So I usually get started by just adding those dependencies. And I do want to open this up because I can't remember if it is. Yeah, it is just Sass. Yeah. But you can see here, like I also will add. Oh yeah, this is a very important package. Is the GSAP React package, because what they have now is a hook. If you're writing GSAP in React, and they have the use GSAP hook, which I highly recommend, but you do have to add an additional package. But this use GSAP hook will only fire once, whereas if you're using use effect, it fires multiple times when the component mounts, like twice at first. And then you have to tell it to only fire once by putting empty brackets. So if anybody watching is familiar with React, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Travis and Jana, I'm not going to go too far into detail this because this is a bit technical
It's cool.
jargon, and we're not at that point yet of the use effect hook. But for now, let's just say that the use GSAP hook is optimized for running animations in React components.
Yeah.
So I will often add that. Yarn add.
Clark says Max is hooking.
And another package that I always have in my projects is Linus. Linus is amazing. And if you guys aren't familiar with it, Linus. That's the code sandbox. You can just Google Linus scroll, and you'll see Darkroom Engineering. Although they used to be called something else, but they changed their name. But what this does is it gives you this smooth scroll without scroll jacking. And you can integrate it with GSAP's scroll trigger library and framer motion and anything really. But this is the nicest, easiest to use, smooth scrolling experience that doesn't hijack the browser scroll that I've seen. It's amazing. It works on all devices. I have it running on all of my personal sites. So here, all of this smooth scroll is Linus, and the animations are just GSAP scroll trigger tied in with Linus. Same thing on Shy Crush. And what's cool is you can just pass in a vertical true option. And let me go ahead and hide this thing. Vercel always shows this. And you can just scroll up and down, and it makes it vertical like this. And all this parallax and like the little shaking of the shapes here is done with GSAP.
Yeah.
But it's as simple as passing in just horizontal true into the options, and it optimizes for mobile devices and everything. So highly recommend checking out Linus. That's always a package that I include in my package.json.
That's a good
And
tip.
to be honest, this is it. This is about actually this is another one. There we go. Yeah. This is it. This is what I have.
Mia says you don't use GSAP's Scroll Smoother plugin?
No, I don't use Scroll Smoother. That is a kind of another whole long conversation. One of them being, to use Scroll Smoother, you have to be part of the GSAP paid club, which I am. But I don't like the interface where you have to have an npm config file to get a private package to work when your project is deployed to a server. It's a whole to-do. I don't like that. And in addition to that, there are some advantages I've noticed with Linus as far as like maintaining like 60 FPS, like high frame rate. Scroll Smoother for some reason just doesn't seem as refined and simplified as Linus. I think the team that created Linus they have a little bit of an edge on Scroll Smoother, which I hate to say that because I love GSAP. I love everything they do, and Scroll Smoother is great, and I'm sure it will get better. And eventually, when it's easier to opt in, I will probably replace Linus with that if they get it to the point that Linus is, and just kind of make the the implementation of it a little bit easier.
It's a hot drama in the world of scrolling your website. So
it's a whole you don't even know. There have been wars in front end development when it comes to like the front end framework wars, but then also smooth scrolling because it does feel nice.
Yeah.
Most people are used to using their iPhones or Androids, their touch screen, and you get that kind of easing.
Yep. And
then on the web, a lot of people don't have these cool Apple touch mouses. They have lame mouses with wheels that click, and it just pushes the screen down by like one click. It clicks the screen down. And in order to make that more smooth experience that they experience on mobiles and tablets, more on the desktop, people started hijacking the scrolling, which means it would like animate the thing and listen for the scroll wheel move. What's that?
They would add easing. I never really liked it.
They would add easing because it was never really implemented well. There's a lot of websites where you would scroll a little bit and it would fly, and it was like very janky.
Yeah.
But now, if you're using either Scroll Smoother or Linus, it works fine on all devices. It's cross-browser consistent.
Max, you just taught us a lot about scrolling. In fact, Clark just learned that his mouse is lame.
Your mouse is lame, Clark. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Sorry to break it to you.
I like Linus's statement. It's get smooth or die trying.
Yeah.
I tried to post Linus and GSAP to the chat, but it won't let me do. I could send it to the
You can't
private
post
chat.
to the chat?
Yeah, for some reason. I'll have to figure that out later, but I'll send this to you, Trav, and then.
You want me to post it in the...
Yeah.
Okay. This is from Jaina, y'all.
Can we do polls in this chat? I believe we can, right?
Oh, I think we can.
Okay. Because,
What do you want to poll?
well, now that I've showed you guys how I like to start my projects, I'd like to kind of loop around to what you were talking about last week and kind of approach this almost how you would approach clients, but like kind of apply it to like ourselves since we're the clients and the contractors, right? But the poll that I would like to do, because I was thinking like, I can build I have to rebuild my portfolio anyway, so we can do that as an exercise. But maybe we go to the awards website and we pull up some cool looking things, and we let people vote on which one they want to see us work on over the next, however long. And each week we just make it a segment where we work a little bit on it.
I like that.
Yeah, like maybe some kind of cool slideshow or some kind of cool hero animation, but we can just look at awards and get inspired. And that's part of your client discovery, right? The first step is that discovery, right? What inspires you? What are we building? What are we working on? So I think we can all take Travis's approach to client management to not only our own projects, but like smaller things like feature development, like even in just building a slideshow, right?
Yeah.
Which slideshow do we want to do? The first step is identifying a thing to build and then finding some references.
Dude, I have a good. I came across a really cool website that had pretty good scrolling this week. Do you want to check it out?
Yeah, show us.
It's a well, you pull it up on your thing, but it's called daylightcomputer.com.
Okay,
It's a new computer that is, I don't know.
Daylightcomputer.com.
Yeah, but the scrolling I was like, oh, this is nice.
Oh wow.
See,
yes.
the shadows and the lighting is hooked onto your scroll right there. Do you see how the shadows pass? Because they're showing off
beautiful.
a feature.
Wow.
They're showing off a feature with this tablet that in night it has like an amber,
You know what I just realized? At first I thought that the scroll was advancing the video frames.
No, it's you.
But this stays animated. It's just advancing the shadows here.
Okay.
Which is very interesting. So they have this video. I'm guessing this is 3JS, which is another thing that we're going to talk about eventually. We're going to start talking about Canvas, about 3JS, and some wild things that you can build. Yeah, here's their Canvas container. So yeah, they're using Canvas here and attaching the movement of this shadow and these color movements to the scroll, but meanwhile they have this other video looping constantly that's unaffected by the scroll.
Right.
Very beautiful.
But they also changed like the right there where it turns amber. Like, is that
that's
on top
amazing?
Of the video?
Well, look, it looks like the color filter, because you can see the grass and the leaf are changing.
Yeah.
So the color filter that's being laid on top is changing with the scroll.
Yeah.
So you can see that, but the video is unaffected. So the video loops on its own.
I think I understand.
And then the shadow and then these mixed blend modes that are changing change on scroll. That is amazing. This is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, Clark likes it too. Got a comment.
Wow.
What a great feature.
Can you guys hear the audio of this video?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not here to change your life. But it might change the way you think about...
Oh, whoops.
Okay.
I just want to see what this thing does.
Yeah, that's like the scroll progress bar, but the whole thing is... The whole thing is
inspired by daylight and nature. That's really cool. Like the way that the light changes throughout day, or how it's...
Yeah, because there's all these studies around like how like glowing LEDs or LCD screens like affect your brain, you know. And so they're
blue light, brown light.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to take this is like a non-glowing screen.
So they are
wow, look at the shadow.
Yeah, it
sits
still there,
on
right?
top. This is a beautiful website.
Yeah.
I mean, this is about as good as it gets here.
That's
it's really nice
for product marketing on the web, and this is amazing.
Look at this slide scroll too. Ooh.
Very, very beautiful.
It goes left and right and then down and then left. Like it kind of goes everywhere.
That's my favorite kind of lighting too, that amber.
Yeah.
So if you look at their source code here, you can see up here they're using Linus also.
They are using Linus?
Yeah, you see these classes here where it shows Linus and Linus Smooth. Okay. Yeah. So they're using Linus, and I'm guessing they're also using either GSAP or Framer Motion.
Mark went down for Linus in the Scroll Wars, bro.
No, Linus is the best.
Dope. Yeah.
It's also free. You have to pay for the GSAP club for Scroll Smoother, and then you have to do all this lame stuff. Because if you're deploying your site to Vercel, you essentially connect it to a GitHub. And when you push to a branch, it will build your project. So it needs to pull the dependencies. And the way GSAP works, when you're paying for the club green sock, you have to have this like npm-rc file. And if you're using Yarn, it's super buggy, and sometimes you can get it to work or not. Otherwise, you have to use npm. It's a whole annoying thing. With Linus, you just add it and you just use it, and it's great.
Linus is, as they say in the business, the shizness.
Yes, that is what they say in the business.
Right now.
So this is beautiful. Good looking out, Travis. I'm going to add this to my saved bookmarks folder.
Yeah.
Oh, and also Raycast over here.
What's Snap? I see in Linus, and the Linus React was Snap on their GitHub.
Linus has a library called Snap.
Oh. Sorry,
I
did
don't
you
know.
already say that? I'm sorry if you did.
Oh, no, I don't know. I'm guessing it's probably maybe an add-on to Snap to the next section or something. I don't know.
Yeah, scroll snapping. Maybe.
Possibly. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
Is that a menu at the bottom, like a little hamburger at the bottom?
Yeah.
Oh, product and home.
Yeah, this is a beautiful piece of inspiration here. And when it comes to marketing for a product, making it the presentation professional, sophisticated, but also big. Like, it seems like there's a lot going on. These little details sometimes are difficult because, like, the actual interaction, right? Like, you get the hand, like, you can grab it, and you can do this kind of touch grab thing here. But it's not entirely intuitive at first.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But from a design perspective, these little elements, and especially utilizing like a sidebar, it does make it look like a much larger environment that you're in when there's really only 2 pages. It's just this and product.
Yeah.
But it feels like a deep immersive environment. All of these small details and large immersive imagery. It also does look like they have a film grain. Let me zoom in here. Yeah, it looks like they have a film grain laying on top of everything.
Oh, yeah, to make it a little bit more nostalgic.
Mm-hmm. And I actually do that too. That's a really nice... so if you look at my site here and you zoom in, you can see the film grain moving around.
Yep.
You see that?
Yeah.
Let me close this. I hate this Vercel toolbar. They just started adding that. Mine's a little bit more heavy-handed than theirs. But that's a really nice touch to make the page feel alive.
Also, it makes everything feel a little bit more cohesive too. Like that's an old school Photoshop trick, is like if you're like making a composite, design, just throw a layer of grain on top of everything, and it makes it like, feel a little bit more a single entity. Yeah.
And music does the same thing. When you're producing music, you can take just like the ambient sounds of birds or a cafe or something outside and put it over your track. Or also with a compressor. You can lay a compressor on top of everything, and it's like a blanket laying on top of everything, making it one thing. And it's the same with sound and color, which is really, really nice. So this is beautiful.
Well, you post that in the chat, Travis?
This website?
I can copy and paste the link here in the chat.
Yeah.
There we go.
Daylight Computer. It's another device, another tablet.
Let's go back here. We talked about, the experience of setting up your machine in 2024, which is much nicer now than it was ever before. And of course, you can go down rabbit holes with any of these, right? VS Code has plugins and themes and a bunch of customizations. But for the most part, you just need your system dependencies, your IDE that you're using, and then whatever framework you prefer. But currently, Next.js is killing it. I love it. I love React. And it is as easy. We did walk through setting up a project here, which is just yarn create Next-app. It's the, it's just nice to just have this one thing that starts your whole project. And you get your real-time refresh, right? So yarn.
Oh, nice.
Dev, you have your hot reloading. You have your layout. And the way that Next.js works is in the root of the app directory is like your index page. And then for any additional pages, you would have a new folder. So this would be like, page 2, right? And then you would have your page.js in that folder. And that's what gets served out. But you can have shared layouts that don't get re-rendered between page routes. And that's what the layout file is reserved for.
Oh.
So, for example, let's just open up my site again. So this navigation, as you can see, as you move through pages here, the navigation doesn't, refresh or anything. So this navigation is shared between these two views, and this is on the layout level of the application. And that's what I was showing earlier. When I start my project, I very, very, very often will have my UI here. So I will put a UI component, which pulls in this component. So in components, I have a folder for UI. I have my index page, which is export all from UI. And on my UI.js, I have a plugin in VS Code, which allows me to type RFCE. I think it's called Watson. I'll have to check what the plugin is called.
React
but just
functional component and export.
Yeah, what this does is I just hit enter, and then I have my UI here, right? So I can say div class name. Let's just call it UI for now. And I can have all my UI elements either in a single header. Often I'll actually do a React fragment. And I will usually have like a specific container for the logo, styles.logo, for example, right? And then I'll have, another div for like the navigation, for example, that's in the top left. So we'll call this styles.nav, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll position these individually on the interface. Like this is its own component here. Because then you can have like components on the side or on the bottom, just like the website here. You have these components that live on the bottom and side that are anchored here, as well as this menu. These are all part of the UI, and they're independent of the views occurring behind it. And Next.js just makes it really easy to set up your layout and have like a single component. And the good thing about this too is it's very portable. So since we imported Sass, I will import styles from ./UI.module.scss. And I have my module here, and I can say .ui. And the good thing about using these modules is you can actually name things like .link, like really general, and you don't have to worry about CSS bleeding, because these are CSS modules. They're sandboxed to the component. And when you render the class, so, for example, let's say display flex, and I will show you right now. Let's go to UI, and we're going to say, I will just wrap these in a class for now. Class name styles.ui. Just to show you guys what the thing looks like. So as you can see, if I come back to my source, on my layout, I have my UI sitting in front of whatever elements get rendered within the body. Now if I, let me just inspect the page here. So you can see that I'm getting an error. Because I didn't import it into the layout. My bad. So all of that, obviously, super important to import your components. Import UI from UI. With Next.js, you can actually do @/components, which is nice. It keeps them a little bit more movable or and components. It keeps them a little more portable. You can kind of move your folder structure around and stuff. All right. Although maybe I need to add that to the thing here. Let me make sure what is going on here. At components /UI. There's my UI. Components UI. Export all from UI. UI. And because I don't have it wrapped. There we go. So now we have our UI component pulling in, and you can see that in the class it creates this ID for it. So you can see that even though I named my class just UI, which is this very general CSS class, you usually don't want to do that. But the good thing about these modules is everything's contained in this folder, and I can move this into another project. I can move this around. If I leave Next.js, the reason I don't really use the file system of Next.js, I only use that for routing and defining the routes, is because let's say I want to switch over to another React framework, I can actually just grab all my components and just drop it in there because it's just React, and it works the same in any. You can bring this into Gatsby, create React app, like literally any React framework. You can just drop this folder in, and all your components work fine. All your CSS is sandboxed, and since you're using this modules, it's not going to bleed into any other classes that happen to share the same name. You can use very general names for your classes. So I have like UI, logo, nav, right? These are super general, right? But since it's actually coming from here, I can say, logo, display block, for example, and then, I'll also just add nav here. And you can see that here it's giving me UI underscore logo underscore double underscore and then ID, UI nav. So there's no possible way that any styles will ever conflict. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about style bleeding. You can have, whatever styles you want here, and it's not going to affect anything else on your site, which is very nice. And nothing else will affect these. So you can, kind of get, run and gun, down and dirty, cowboy programming, and it's not going to affect the rest of your site. So that's how I like to start my projects. So just a recap, I'll add GSAP. I'll add the GSAP React package so I can use GSAP hook for animations. Linus, we talked about that for scrolling.
We know about Linus.
I use GSAP for animations, and then the rest, Next, React, and React DOM are installed automatically when you start your next project. I add Sass out of habit because I like nested CSS rules. So for example, here, if I don't want to, if I have like just like, let's say I have just a general A or a button, right? Just some general item, right? Now button is a general HTML element, right? That has like text inside of it. But over here, I can actually just nest, and I can just say, A or button in this case, and add styles here. Background color red, and I can target that button just by nesting, and it's still sandboxed because it applies the class from the UI into this. Because it's cascading styles, so this is going to import the styles, it's essentially going to print like this, and then button. So it's only targeting the buttons within this class, right? That's how it prints the CSS. So it's very, very cool. I mean, being able to manage your CSS nowadays is more modular than ever.
It looks cool,
It's like when it comes to art-directed blogs, you can just create a folder for that page, have your CSS, and you can do whatever you want to it, and it's not going to affect the rest of your site. It only affects that page or that component. So where we're at today in 2024 with programming, it is so much fun. The setup is minimal. It really feels like you can just jump in and start creating.
Yeah.
Dude,
thanks for that walkthrough. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you think, Jana?
yeah, I'm excited to implement some of these things and get started on a project, even just like a small one for fun.
Yeah,
Try it
yeah.
all out. I just want to try most of it.
Well,
I
we're going to be
give.
doing it here,
Okay.
Yay!
and
Oh, is that
everybody
what?
can follow along.
Cool. Yeah, great work.
And that's just the beginning, right? That really is just kind of a brief overview of how nice the ecosystem of full stack development is now, and how easy it is to just get a new project started. Yarn create next app, or npm create next app, and you're ready to go. You do
Right.
npm run dev or yarn dev, depending on which package manager you're using. I prefer yarn. And you've got your project running, hot reloading. You can just start writing your code. And being a designer and developer, and Travis, you know this, it's very
Yeah.
fun to design in the browser as you build.
Yeah, that's true. Like when I was running dev tips previously, I would say like my design job is not done. I'm still like making decisions as I code. And like when I'm doing things in Figma or whatever I was using at the time, like I would think of that as more of a sketch or like the beginning of an idea, and I was never really complete until the code was written.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you kind of really taught me that back in the day, really, Max.
To design in the browser?
Yeah, I mean that's something that you kind of really introduced to me back in the day. Remember, like when we were sitting next to each other in that studio. Yeah, that was something that we would talk about a lot.
Yeah. I think I do remember, because you were like a real designer. You had like went through the process, and you're like, and I want to see wireframes, I want to see mock-ups before we,
Okay.
the formal which is good, right?
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, I wanted to kind of fast forward
Mhm.
and be like, well, let's just
Yeah,
get it into the browser. But I remember you used to do that too. You would,
Yeah.
and I remember the funny thing is, one of my favorite memories of Travis is we're working together in this office. He leans over and he goes, "Hey Max," he's like, "Do you squint when you design?" And he's like squinting. And when he says that, I was in the process of doing the same thing, because it does something when you're looking at it. Like you kind of get a
like
general
blur it out.
blur it out and get a
Yeah.
general view of the placement of where things are.
Yeah.
I don't. There is an advantage to it, and I do it. I don't know what it is, but I remember you pointing that out, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess I am doing that now. I do that.
This is a classic artist approach where you go in and you make a detail, and then you step back and you look at it, and then you go in and you make a detail. And
Yeah.
Makes sense. Because
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
you're so like into the pixel that you have to like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't see the forest through the trees, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You got to
exactly.
zoom out and see the whole elephant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
Dave
walked.
thought that was awesome.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. We're gonna be
And so
keep
did
going.
Juice.
So it was awesome.
Yeah.
What's up, Juice Vandershee? We're rocking here. Thank you guys. And we're gonna keep going. But for today, because we have been talking now for over an hour, I just wanted to kind of catch Travis and Jaina up on how simple the ecosystem is to get started and just to start coding within a very modern environment. Because this environment, the thing about CodeKit, that's great. You can have flat files and everything. But the moment you need to scale or get serious, you're screwed.
Right.
This approach is out the gate. Whether you're building a personal portfolio, a one-page resume, or a enterprise level application for a financial institution or whatever, it's the same code base. It's the same environment. You're ready to scale there.
I really like that. That feels really really good. That was one thing that I always like felt limited by my stack, is that like I was like, oh, like I'm really good with it, but at the same time, like I can only go so far with like my final output.
The ceiling was low.
Yeah. So I like the way you're approaching this. Like, it doesn't matter if it's like a one-page resume versus like a huge app launch. Is going to be the same
versus
environment.
Twitter or Instagram.
Yeah,
or
and
Facebook.
like having that same environment being both, it means that you're going to be good in that environment. And so when it comes time to scale up your project size, you're still going to feel more confident and comfortable in that environment.
Yeah, the benefits to having a consolidated code base. And, this, you add one package and it's a progressive web app, right? And Google, Chrome, Safari now, they're embracing web apps. And unfortunately, it's taken a lot longer than it should have. And I think it's like political stuff in, Apple and Google and everything. But there's no way around it. They're going to have to make the code bases for these things a little bit more ubiquitous and support PWAs. Because the benefits of having a single code base for all of your apps, your desktop, mobile apps, your websites, and everything, in addition to having that scaling thing where you're using the same code base, it's just bigger. But finding people, scaling your team becomes much easier. You just need someone that knows JavaScript. That's it.
Right.
Someone that knows React, right? And obviously if they're doing front like CSS, but those are all you just need the basics. And it's much, much easier to scale a team and find people to work and have them work across all of the different feature sets. If you have specific features for mobile versus specific features for desktop, it's actually the same code. The conditional is just like the screen size or device. You can have the same people working on those features and interchange the actual team. So the scalability and maintainability, both from a code debt perspective and from a team scaling perspective, is way better now.
That's good. Like they work together like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to jump into React more. When I was learning, we kind of went front end and then did all the basics, and then into back end, and then finished the course with React. But it was a very here's React, and then we were just done.
Yeah.
So, I made one project in it, and it was this little Super Mario clicky game.
Nice.
But,
I think that's the problem with a lot of those boot camp, pretty much a lot of just classes like that. They focus on the tooling, and then you get to React, where that's the point where you're actually doing the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they want you to grok the concepts of setting up the thing before doing it. And I've always found that to be a waste of time, and I've been proven right, because nowadays that tooling is essentially automated and outsourced to Vercel or Next.js or Gatsby or Vite or whatever. Mayes just said, I would waste so much time back in the day trying to get my gulp file Webpack set up correctly. And that's what I'm saying. Me too. I went through that whole thing, and I'm OCD. I had to know gulp and grunt and Webpack and all of the things. I had to know all of them, so I was confident that I was doing the best thing.
Yeah, totally. You kind of want to understand it from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because I kind of went more now to the low code, no code environment. So I skipped over components and React, and then so it'll be nice to kind of go into that intersection of, and then just have more capability in that way to
I think all of those classes should start on the opposite end, where they say, what's the big picture? What do you want to build? Picture something to build, and then we'll talk about getting to that point. Yeah. But instead of the nitty gritty, I don't think it helps people, because then they learn how to use things that by the time they get out of that class, it's become obsolete. But they never learned how to pick an end goal and then be resourceful enough to use whatever's current to get to that end goal. Dave says that I believe that web app was going to compete against Apple. Yeah, Apple's App Store, which is the reason it stalled, and that is 100% true. Epic sued Apple and won, and now they have. It came down to accepting payments, because if you're running a PWA, you can use Stripe and accept payments, and they wanted to force everyone to only pay through the App Store. Because they get their cut. 30%, they got to get their 30%, exactly.
That's it. That's a moneymaker, baby.
Hey, I don't hate on them. It is true. They're we got to hold on to this golden goose as long as we can. But it is inevitable. They're going to have to let go of that, because, But that is sad. That I love Apple, and they have pushed the web forward more than any other company in the world. WebKit, WebKit. Chrome came from WebKit, so much did. And there's so much, even USB-C 3 is actually Thunderbolt, that Apple has just given away so much. And like when they went to war against Adobe Flash, it was because Adobe Flash was not open source, and it wasn't standardized languages in the browser. The browser it was like a separate program that was running in the browser, and they wanted everything to be open. And then it's so sad to see that the modern Apple is pushing back on the web apps because of what Dave just said. It was it was going to go against the App Store.
Yeah.
And that is kind of a sign of like, well, Apple's not what Apple used to be.
Yeah,
it seems like
shitification
in some ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about setting a project, how easy it is now. We talked about Next.js, and now, real quick, at this stage, to go back to what you talked about last week, Travis, I have an untitled Google Doc here.
Yeah.
What do you do to get started? What's the first slide that you get started with?
Oh, an outline. Well, it depends. So I'm making this deck to present to somebody, right? Then I think like, well, then there has to be some type of narrative for the deck. So usually a really easy to understand outline is kind of like a story. There's an introduction, there's the middle, there's a climax, and then an ending. So usually in the introduction, you're setting the context for what you need to know. In the introduction, you're kind of maybe like saying what your goals are. So you might have a slide that's like, here is my goal. And you can write out a sentence. I showed this in my deck last week, that there's a sentence that we all agree on. And I showed this sentence to the client. I go, does this sound right? And they go, well, actually, our client is this and this, or our goals are this and this. And I go, okay, great. And then we edit it together so that we're all on the same page. So I would say one slide would be goals. The outline would take us through, after the introduction, context, like what research do we know? What are our competitors doing? What are our inspirations? That's all kind of in the first, section of introduction and context. And then after that, you'd talk about like I would set up a structure for reporting on the work that you do, and I go bi-weekly, so I try to.
So when you start, you have this structure that you set up automatically, or what's like if I'm facing just an empty slide like I'm doing now?
Yeah.
What's the first step, right? What do you do? And what I'd like to do is figure out how we can apply it to not a client, but to ourselves for either a project, or in this case, even if we just want to experiment with building a feature, right? So we'll find, let's find a cool feature on awards, and maybe we'll find a couple, and we'll share it with the chat and have them vote on which one we work on. That is very cool. Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow, Ryan.
That kind
So
of
this
like
intro is very fun. Although I believe this probably goes a little, we can probably emulate this, but I guarantee you that this is Canvas. I can already tell by the movement. And they're using Linus too. Look at this.
Linus.
Everybody loves Linus. Here's the Canvas.
Linus, for sure.
So I think getting into Canvas and WebGL and 3 is a bit outside of the scope of this. That would be a whole other thing. However, we can actually try to recreate this approximately with just semantic languages, right? CSS and GSAP, JavaScript. But the fun thing, maybe, how about the intro here? Just that animation. That's one. So I'm going to share this in the chat as number 1. So we'll pick 3. So number 1 will be the intro from...
Did you see what Clark said?
Chat Gibbity.
Write a really in-depth prompt explaining the desired outcome and have Chat Gibbity and generate an outline. Just did 10 slide while watching, guys. There we go. Yeah, we could have just used... Yeah, Jana, you want to show us how to use 4.0 to generate the outline?
Here, let me grab my phone. There we go.
Yeah, maybe the slides are overkill for just a feature. But I think it is a nice approach to treat yourself as the client and actually present to yourself in that fashion.
I don't think they're overkill, man. I think that because it's live, you're like feel like you have to have something to show right now. But like
that's probably it, yeah.
But the sentiment of like, let's use something to keep aligned to our vision and aligned together, I think is a strong tool. And so, you know, if it's not going into slides and making the actual slides, writing that outline is super helpful to getting there. So I just start with like a numbered list, you know, number 1, introduction, and then, you know, indent. And what's in the introduction is context, it's a goal, it's research, it's like the things that we want to talk about.
Okay. So for the purposes of this, we're going to build out one cool feature from awards.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay.
And then we're selecting the feature through a poll. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm gonna copy
I don't know
these.
how to do a poll.
I'm pretty sure we can do a poll.
We can do a poll on the website, like on YouTube.
Afterwards.
Okay.
But didn't we see that here? There's a banner.
Oh.
Banners.
Well, yeah. Once we get that feature, then we can do the prompt. I'll have my cat. What did you call it? Chat. Jibbity.
Chat Jibbity.
Yeah, I thought we could do a poll. I thought I remembered seeing that somewhere in this app.
Well, I'll put the options here, and once we figure out how to do a poll, we will post these options. So we'll do the intro animation from that, and then I'm still sharing my screen, right? Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Let's go pick a random.
Let's do Daylight Computer. It was cool.
Oh yeah, Daylight Computer. Let's see if there's a feature that we can emulate. Daylight Computer. Whoops. Daylight Computer. So this scroll animation with the shadow.
Yeah.
Again, we looked at this, and this was a canvas animation. However, we can emulate that. There is a way to emulate this, or approximate it with another div with an image of a shadow that scrolls and rotates as you scroll.
I've always wanted to try to emulate, like, you know how when you have your eyes closed outside and you kind of just lay there and the sun is going through it and you get these like really cool
on the back of your eyelids. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always wanted to try to like do that. It'd be fun to use this in that way. It'd be fun.
Shadow scroll animation from there. So what I will say is, although these are, I'm guessing, 3JS or WebGL animations, we will approximate, I can't spell, with we'll just say CSS and JavaScript.
No worries.
I know. Have you ever noticed you type worse when people are watching?
Yeah.
I cannot type if somebody's watching me.
Dude, it's like orders of magnitude how bad I am at typing when somebody's watching. Like, it's not even a little bit. It's so much worse.
Yeah, and then the anxiety ramps up as it gets worse. You're like, ah.
Okay, and we can share this doc. I'll share this afterwards in the chat. So the two, we emulate the shadow scroll animation or the intro animation. And in the future, I mean, listen, we got all the time in the world. We can do all of them eventually, maybe. But let's pick one more, and we'll let people vote on the feature that they want to see built out. And we can all do it together and kind of, oh, this is making me jealous.
Inspired.
Yeah, beautiful. But this aesthetic, like this kind of stripped down, just very minimal, but like, with the text on top. Oh, wow. Did you see that animation? See what's happening here? You see how it wipes that on?
Yeah.
This might be a fun feature to build out because what's happening is it's mounting the component And as it's wiping up, what it is, it's a clipping mask, which is a CSS property, because you can see it's actually revealing. So the video's there behind the whole time, and it's revealing it and moving it up. So that's a clipping clip path or clip mask animation.
Yeah, let's do that too.
Which is very fun. Which I actually use. If you look at my application here, when I click on the navigation at the bottom here, you can see that the stuff has always been there. It gets wiped on, and that is the same technique. That's a circular clip mask, and that's what they're using here. So that might be a fun one.
Yeah.
How do you elevate yourself?
Yeah, this is beautiful though. I'm super jealous.
Let's do that.
Let's see. Cool. Yeah, that one?
I like that.
That one? Okay, so we will add the video clip mask animation from this website. So we're going to come back to our slide here. And we're going to say video clip path mask reveal animation from this site.
Nice.
Yeah, so that can be a fun one. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put a star here and a star here, and then do that. Just as a little disclaimer. There we go. I love your use of Google Slides. I don't use it every time I get into Slides. It's this kind of stuff that's like, come on. It's like,
what?
And these things don't snap. I just want these to snap. You know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah, just use what's best for you. Like it doesn't.
No, I want to do it your way.
Okay.
That's the point of this exercise.
Okay.
Okay. So now these ones have Three.js. So we have three options. And we have our goal, build out one cool feature from awards. We'll vote on these, and we'll see what the chat says. We just have to figure out how to put up a poll. But we'll figure it out. And then, next week we'll continue. Although I'm not going to be hosting, but, we can each have like a 20-minute section to just move a little bit further. But I can show you guys the next steps to move towards accomplishing one of those goals with the new cool React paradigm that we're in.
This will be so fun.
I think it will be fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Max.
Yeah,
thank you guys
so much.
This is very fun.
What an interesting world of coding. 3 looks fun, it says.
Oh,
that's one vote for 3. I was almost positive that there was a way to put up a poll here. I thought I saw
so too. Didn't we, when we were checking it out, we thought saw something like that.
Present slides. Yeah, when we were checking it out, there was like a poll thing. If we do put this poll out, where would we publish it?
Well, you can do
Is there
on our
Twitter?
channel. Well, our channel in the community tab. So if you go to our channel homepage on YouTube, on the community tab, we can do polls. So we'll put it there. Yeah.
Okay. So you'll just paste it from this document, and
that's right. Yeah, we'll do that right after our stream is done.
Dev tips fun. I'm naming this document Dev tips fun, and I'm gonna send you the link, and we can show the doc and then put the poll up, and we've already got one vote for number 3. And hopefully this is fun for us, and we're bringing it back to Dev tips a little bit.
Yo, thanks, Max.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. This is a lot of fun, and we'll set the poll up as soon as we end the stream. But that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody. Ciao.
Bye.
See you next week.